Whiting, Indiana. Population 9,669. Located on Lake Michigan, 17 miles southeast of Chicago. An important part of the highly industrialized Calumet district.
Isn't it a little early in the morning for a travelogue?
Not a bit. It's nearly 6. You should be awake, even if Whiting still seems sleepy. Now, let's see. Oh, yes. On the left, we have Standard Oil's Whiting Refinery, founded in 1889, oldest Calumet industrial pioneer. It's one of the largest complete refineries in the world.
Please, no more. It's not only too early, but too warm. It's probably going to be the hottest August 27th in Whiting's history.
At 6:12 a.m., Saturday, August 27th, a unit exploded in the Whiting, Indiana refinery of the Standard Oil Company and started one of the biggest industrial fires in history. The force of the explosion sent fragments of steel hurtling into nearby houses on Indianapolis Boulevard. While inside the refinery, it punctured storage tanks, spilling crude oil and products which were soon ablaze. An oil fire usually looks worse than it really is. This one lived up to its appearance. It looked bad, and it was bad, and it lasted 8 days. The fire at Whiting burned for 8 days, 4 hours, and 45 minutes. And in that time, nearly 50 acres of modern refinery equipment had been melted down, leaving a field of blackened, twisted rubble. 63 tanks were destroyed, and more than 1.25 million barrels of crude oil, intermediate and finished products, went up in smoke, literally. A number of company buildings were casualties, as were some nearby private dwellings. The intensity of the heat buckled tank cars, twisted and uprooted rails, and melted metal wheels like so much butter. Yet, hard to believe, just 12 hours after it started, the fire was contained, and by noon the following day, Sunday, was generally under control. On Monday morning, the work of restoring the refinery to normal operating condition was begun. No one at the refinery lost employment. The unit which exploded and caused the fire was a fluid catalytic hydroformer, as high as a 26-story building. This is how it looked before the blast, and this is how it looked after. Let's look at this schematic diagram. At the time of the explosion, the operating personnel were in the process of starting up the unit. The inert gas used to heat the recycle system, which is shown in red, was in contact with naphtha, here and here. Thus, naphtha vapors circulated throughout the recycle system. Specially built plug valves, normally used to close the internal piping between reactor and regenerator at these points, remained partially open, even though proper inspection of the outside indicators showed they were closed. This failure to close allowed air, shown in orange, to leak into the recycle system. The air, mixed with the naphtha vapors, formed a combustible mixture. Then, it is believed, the skin metal temperature of the recycle furnace tubes provided the source of ignition. The explosion followed. Now, I'm a TV news commentator who covered the fire, and not an authority on hydroformers. However, we do have a gentleman here who is. Mr. J.C. Ducommon,
General Manager of Manufacturing for the Standard Oil Company.
Mr. Ducommon, what was the function of the unit which caused the trouble?
Well, the function of the fluid hydroformer was to change a low-octane gasoline into a high-octane gasoline. This was accomplished by changing the molecular structure of the virgin gasoline fractions of crude oil.
I see. Is this a new process?
Not exactly, but this particular unit was quite new. As a matter of fact, it was the first of its kind. It was capable of producing up to 22,000 barrels daily of high-octane gasoline.
This is an aerial photograph of the damaged area after the fire was extinguished. Mr. Ducommon, I wonder if you would point out just a few of the key points of interest to us.
Certainly. Be glad to. First of all, it is not difficult to distinguish the fire-damaged area which lies within the portion of the map I'm encircling. Cutting diagonally across here is Indianapolis Boulevard, the U.S. highway which separates the refinery from the Indiana tank field which lies to the west.
Which apparently escaped.
No, not entirely. The fire jumped across Indianapolis Boulevard at this point, and for a time the entire tank field was threatened. Now here's the fluid hydroformer, or rather what's left of it. The explosion threw steel fragments into this tank field to the north, where the serious fires occurred. In fact, the entire tank field appeared to be in flames within a matter of minutes. Railroad tracks and tank cars located alongside the tank field also were destroyed by fire, and so was a portion of the 6-track loading rack located here.
Well, this was a tremendous fire, and yet there were few casualties.
That's right. 3 refinery workers were injured seriously. No one in the plant was killed, although one employee died of a heart attack after he parked his car and while he was approaching the scene.
Were there any fatalities outside the plant?
I am sorry to say there was 1 fatality and 1 serious injury. We're very grateful there were no more.
And as big as it was, this fire was brought under control very quickly and confined to about 50 of Standard's 1,600 acres. How was this possible?
Well, first I'd mention our training program. The fire at Whiting was controlled by men, properly trained and properly equipped, who knew what had to be done and did it. You have to understand that firefighting is a part of every job at Whiting. The first instruction in the refinery fire regulation is, you are the fire department regardless of your regular job. That calls for our extensive training program conducted under the direction of Chief Marshal Frank Horlbeck.
Chief Horlbeck, how do you go about turning a man into a firefighter?
Well, mainly just what we're doing here. Teach him how to use the equipment on practice fire, which builds confidence. With the kind of firefighting devices available today, if a man handles the equipment correctly, he can handle the fire.
How much training is required?
That varies, of course. We have about 300 refinery employees who are fully trained in the newest technique of fighting refinery fires. Then there's a second group of 300 regular refinery personnel. They're trained too, but not as extensively, just the fundamentals. And then we also have a full-time staff of 11 fire marshals who work shifts around the clock. Their job is training, inspecting, testing, and preparing for any possible fire. They conduct these training sessions, explaining the equipment and seeing to it that every trainee tries his hand at each type of firefighting device.
As you know, refinery fires are rare, but the training program must go on continuously.
Everyone learns to use fire hydrants, hoses, and portable foam equipment. Raising a portable foam tower is typical of the additional training given first-line crews.
What do you mean, first-line crew?
They're the fully trained men who answer every siren call. On each shift, this averages about 30 men.
Chief, we're set for that practice one with number 7 fire truck.
Okay, I'm coming. I want to time it. See you later.